Shalom, Israel. This evening's class, excuse me, this class is going to be called The Law and You. Uh, as usual, we will be slapping you with this truth. Uh, this deals with you and the law and how it pertains to you. If you already are of the house of Israel, you should know by now that your history is pretty much documented in Deuteronomy 28. It lists all of our blessings and our curses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on a few verses here in verse 28. You can read all of 28 to kind of get a full grasp of things. However, if you start off, excuse me, at verse 15, uh, all the way through 68 is where you will find the curses. But the blessings are pretty much uh, contrary to the curses. Okay, so it's the opposite pretty much. So what I'm going to touch on is a few things before we get started. We're in Deuteronomy 28. I'm going to touch on a few of these, a few verses, and then kind of show you how all of this relates to the law. Now, I do understand that the reason why we were sent into captivity in the first place is because we broke these laws. So therefore, you should not let anyone tell you that the laws are done away with and the laws doesn't matter, because we're living proof that it does matter, especially if you're of the house of Israel. Okay, so now we're going to start off with, let's go to, I'm in Deuteronomy. Let's start off with Deuteronomy 28, verse 29. And that reads, "And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee." All right. Now, as we read here, it's pretty much letting the children of Israel know that they will grope at noonday. Now, we know groping is to feel with one's hands, okay? And it says they grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness. Now, let's keep a few things in mind. A blind man cannot see. He's able to feel his way around, i.e. grope, just in order so he can determine exactly which way to go, okay? And it says here specifically, uh, grope in darkness. And this is at noonday. We know at noonday that the sun is at its peak, so it's bright. So therefore, this is an indication that Israel will be pretty much trying to feel its way around. Though it's bright as day outside, we still won't be able to see. This verse is pretty deep once you start poking through other places or looking through other places in the book to kind of grasp its meaning as it relates to the law. Because once again, breaking of the law is the reason why we find ourselves with these curses upon us in the first place. So what we want to do is we're all truth seekers and we're seeking the truth. So let's find out what is the truth is according to this book. Go ahead and flip to Psalms 119. Psalms 119, 142. And that will we kind of read that verse and kind of get a good grip on what the truth really is. All right, Psalms 119, 142 reads, "Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth." So if you're seeking for the truth from the Most High according to His word, okay, if you're seeking the truth, you're seeking righteousness. And if you're seeking righteousness, you're seeking His laws, okay? So to be right, to be just, okay, or to be righteous is to seek His laws, to follow them, and to obey them. Okay. So once again, Psalms 119, 142, "Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth." So the truth is the law, and the law is the truth, vice versa. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're trying to seek truth. If you're seeking truth, you're seeking the laws of the Most High. And once you seek His laws and you obey it, then you also gain that wisdom of Him. So we must seek His ways or His laws. All right. Now, as we go to, we're going to jump to Deuteronomy 48, or 28, 48. All right. And this states here, "Therefore shall thy serve thine enemies," meaning we are delivered to our enemies. The individuals that we have been delivered to are not our friends by any means. Okay, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. So, if you're familiar with any type of research pertaining to slavery, you know exactly what a yoke of iron is. Okay, it was placed upon the necks of slaves, and it had some hooks on it, so you couldn't get away, you couldn't run in the bushes or anything of that sort. Or it had just a big round circle and chained to your feet and your hands, so you weren't able to escape. Okay, so by reading Deuteronomy 28:48 specifically, lets you know if someone is of the house of Israel, they have been in bondage, they have been enslaved, they've had yokes of irons upon their necks. So, in order for you to claim that you're of the house of Israel, you better match these curses in Deuteronomy 28. And those individuals that claim to be Jewish and Israeli and all these other things, it's none of these. I mean, absolutely none of them. If you do any bit of research and without doing too much of it, you know clearly it's not them. Because those are white-skinned people, and the Most High's people are not white-skinned people, and you can find it all through this book. But that's another topic. We'll do that on another day. Okay, once again, so we've been delivered to our enemies. Okay, now let's get back to the blind groping at night. Why would Israel be groping in the middle of the day? And the answer to that is really simple. Uh, the Most High says clearly that His commandments are a lamp. Okay, we know we use a lamp to shed light. All right, and so therefore, the reason why we will be groping at noonday is because while we're in this captivity, we will have no law. Okay, and we're going to get some verses to actually back that up. But what has happened to us once we've been placed in captivity? We will be serving gods that neither us nor our forefathers knew. All right. So we'll be serving strange gods. That's number one. And we would have no light, meaning we would have no law. Okay. In other words, we will be caught up in lawlessness. Okay. Lawlessness is akin to sinfulness. Okay. Sin is akin to darkness. So kind of see how those go hand in hand. Darkness, lawlessness, sin, lack of light. All right. So let's go ahead and go straight to Proverbs 29 and 18. Proverbs 29:18. Get there. Proverbs 29 and verse 18. And it reads, where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. So there's no vision, meaning it's hard to see far ahead or even in front of you, okay, if you do not have any type of light, some kind of illumination. And so the children of Israel have stumbled because we have no idea where we're going or where we're stepping because we are in sin. Okay. So where it says here, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. None of us are keeping any laws. We're now returning to these laws. Okay. And once we decide to return to the laws, things will change for us. Okay. So if we are looking for happiness, we must keep these laws. Okay. And if we do not have any vision, we perish. All right. And that vision comes from that light. And that light comes from that lamp. All right. And that lamp being those commandments. And let's go ahead and get that right now. Proverbs 6 and verse 23. Proverbs 6:23. And it reads, Proverbs 6:23, for the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproof of instructions are the way of life. So therefore, the commandments is a lamp, and the law is light. Okay? So therefore, all of the commandments are pretty much a way of how to conduct yourself in life. All right, in accordance to the commandments, the rules, the statutes, and regulations of the Most High Power. So if you expect to have a happy life, and not to be groping in darkness, you must return to these laws. So therefore, we're in captivity, we're in darkness, and we can easily get out into the light if we just follow these commandments and not allow anyone to tell us that these laws are done away with. These laws pertain to us. They have not been done away with. Okay, they still stand. They are valid. Now, some of you are saying that, well, there is no law, and that Jesus died for your sins and all this other nonsense. None of this is true. Okay, the law is valid. All right. Now understand, if you turn to Proverbs 28 and 9, because there's some of you who clearly don't want to hear anything about the law because you feel as though the law is not valid and you're validated by some savior that the Most High himself never spoke of, and you could not find any prophet speaking of in any place. Okay, so you really need to research that. Now, let's go to Proverbs 28, verse 9, and let's see what it reads. It says here, he that turneth away his ear from the law, even his prayer shall be abomination. So therefore, if you're one of those who are not following the laws, and secondly, you could care less about hearing about these laws because you feel they're done away with, your prayer or abomination. Okay? It says so clearly here in Proverbs 28, verse 9. Okay? So keep that in mind as it relates to you thinking that there's no law and you don't have to adhere to law, or you don't want to hear anything about the laws of the Most High. Okay? Understand that's the very reason why we are in this captivity as is because we didn't want to hear the law and because we could care less about it. Okay? So if if we would like to see how circumstances change, we must return to this law. It is valid. And you can hear this clearly out of the Most High's mouth himself, because we'll go to Deuteronomy 30 in a second, to where we can say exactly how we can undo the curses put upon us in Deuteronomy 28. The Most High did say specifically, for all that we have done, as far as contrary to his law, his arm is still stretched out, meaning he's still ready to receive us, but we must convert. And what he means by convert doesn't mean to convert from one religion to the next. There's no such thing. Remember, the Most High never gave his people religion. He gave them laws. So we must convert from wickedness to righteousness. That is the conversion he's talking about. Okay. So when you hear must convert or turn back, you must convert from wickedness to righteousness. The righteousness is following his laws. Okay. Because keep in mind, that's the reason why we're in this mess in the first place. Excuse me. So now keep in mind that we're in darkness. We're groping in this darkness right now, bumping into walls every place because we have no light. What is that light? That light is the laws of the Most High, because we've been sent into these nations. Okay. And I will read this for you in Deuteronomy 28. All right, let's jump straight to Deuteronomy 28, verse 64. I'm just picking a few verses here out of Deuteronomy 28, so we can kind of get a quick grasp, but you can actually go through and read it for yourself. All right, here we are, Deuteronomy 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods. Okay, now keep in mind, the children of Israel are here serving other gods throughout all the lands of the earth. Okay, they have no idea who they are, number one, and they have no idea who the Most High is as it relates to them and their position. Okay, so what we're doing, what we have done, we are serving the gods of our enemies and have no idea that this is what we're doing. Okay, and so we must educate ourselves that way we know exactly who to call on. Okay, and I'm gonna touch on that, serving the gods of our enemies, in a minute. All right, let's continue here. It says, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So in these lands, we're clearly understanding that we're going to be scattered into some nations. and that we will be serving strange gods, meaning we're going to be calling on the wrong person. Okay. And chances are, if you're calling on the wrong person, you're not going to get any results. You're not going to get the desired results. Hence, we have been stuck in captivity for some time now, and our circumstances have not really changed. So, these are some things that we must consider. All right, now let's go to verse 65 of Deuteronomy 28. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have no assurance of thy life. So we know good and well, as the children of Israel, our forefathers have experienced this during the days of slavery. Even to this day, uh, law enforcement, should you be pulled over, your life is possibly in the balance. Just reaching for your license here the other day in South Carolina, a man was shot. All right, the cop pulled him over, asked him to reach and get his license. And the man reached to get his license, he shot him. Okay, it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. However, once you understand these curses and you understand who these people are, and you understand who you are, where you are, and why you're here, then things begin to make sense. Okay, so once again, uh, sorrow of mind, filling of eyes, and a trembling heart. So we've had all of these things. We've experienced this. Hence, Israel is the witness. Okay, so we will witness all of these things and experience them firsthand. All right, let's jump down to Deuteronomy 68, or verse 68 of Deuteronomy 28, which is the last verse of the chapter. All right. And verse 68 reads, And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Egypt is synonymous with bondage. All right. Because remember, the first time that we went into captivity in Egypt, there were no boats. Okay. We walked there. All right. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bond men and bond women. This is slavery, servitude. Okay. And no man shall buy you, no man shall redeem you. Okay. In Israel, if you were in bondage to somebody, in the old days, let's say you had my brother or something like that, and he owed you a debt and he had to do some servitude for you, I can easily go buy him back. Okay, I can redeem him. Uh, what this is saying here is that no one will redeem you. Okay, once you're in the clutches of the hands of the Most High, okay, no one is coming to get you out of that but him himself. Okay, so this comes back to people looking for another savior. There is no savior but the Most High himself. No one, and I mean absolutely no one, can rescue you, can redeem you out of the hands of the Most High. We're in his hands right now. We're in his clutches. Okay, and so therefore our circumstances will not change until he changes it. He is our only redeemer. He is our only savior. If you're looking for another savior other than him, you are mistaken. Okay, so no one is going to buy us out of this circumstances. Now, the first and most common response to this, when we're speaking to people of other nations saying, look, this is who we are, the first thing they're saying is, well, everyone has been enslaved. And at some point or another, with all the conquering of so many different nations, everyone has been in slavery to someone at some point. Uh, that may be true to an extent. However, it's one thing when you hold people captive in one part of the world. Okay. Our situation is global. All right. We're at the bottom of the barrel globally. That's number one. All right. Number two, it's the same people that suppressed us all over the place. Okay. Which is kind of amazing. All right. It just speaks to the power of the Most High and him being true to his word. Secondly, for all those who may say, well, everyone has been in bondage, they need to be able to show it by the millions. Where do you have XYZ millions of people that's been taken into bondage by boat? And you have documentation of that. Secondly, to where their heritage was removed. Show me documentation of that. Thirdly, show me those very people who were in bondage that had all these things happen to them to where they're still wearing the names of their oppressor to this day. keep in mind anything that you own has your name on it. All right. So therefore, if we're wearing our oppressor's names, technically we were or are their property at some point. All right. So that's how deep this goes. All right. So our names, or the oppressor has put his name upon us, upon the chosen of the Most High, as a curse. And you can read that in Isaiah as well. So we're carrying the names of our captors, of our oppressors to this day. And you cannot find a group of people on this earth where you can ask them where they're from and they not know, except the Hebrew people, the Hebrew Israelites who are scattered all over the earth. Have no idea who they are. We have more nationalities than anyone else. Okay. And so therefore, hence our problem. We have fallen away from the laws. We have not kept them. So if you would read Deuteronomy 28, all right, read the entire chapter for clarity, but your cursor starts at verse 15. And you see exactly all the things that will befall us, not just then, but all the way to now. This thing is continual until we return to the Most High and keep His commandments and His laws. Now, I'm going to jump over to Deuteronomy 30 because this is pretty much going to come down to what it's going to take to fix our situation. I've discussed the black think tanks and all of the solutions they bring forth, which are not solutions at all. Okay, because they clearly have no understanding of who we are, let alone who they are. So all their solutions are the solutions that's used or brought forth by our enemies. And so therefore we cannot solve our problems using our enemies' methods, voting and all the other nonsense that they put forth in order for us to better improve our condition. So if you want to improve your condition, one way to do this is really simple, and that will be to return to these laws. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 30, because we just left Deuteronomy 28. So the Most High is giving us ways and showing us how we can remove ourselves from these curses to where we can get back into His good graces. He never said anything except that we turn back. That's it. Okay, He didn't say anything else. All right, and I'm going to read some of this. Let's go ahead and start at Deuteronomy 30, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God has driven thee. Okay, so therefore He's saying that after He's put these blessings and these curses upon us, He's going to start to remind us exactly who we are. And that is what's taking place today. Okay, so we're in all these nations, and all of a sudden, all right, we're being reminded of who we are, and we're looking in places in this book that our oppressors told us not to look. All right, and we can see ourselves right here as the people of the Most High. Now let's go to verse 2. Once again, we're in Deuteronomy 30, verse 2. And shall return unto thy God, and shall obey His voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul. So, to return unto the Most High means one thing: to obey His voice. Okay? To obey His voice. That's what it means to return unto Him. And not just you and your children. That means your entire household, which means a man must be able to command and take charge of his house. Okay, so if we're going to return unto the Most High, that means one thing: we return unto His laws, which is the light, which is the truth. Okay, so now, verse 3. That then, understand what the stipulation is. Okay, the stipulation is once you return, you and your children. Okay, verse 3, here's the stipulation: that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God has scattered thee. So, tell me where in this verse does the Most High says He's sending someone to get you. Doesn't exist. Okay, He said, it says here clearly that then the Most High, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity, meaning There's going to be a reversal. Okay, and you can read that in Isaiah 14. And have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations where the Lord thy God has scattered thee. All right, and you can read all about that. Also, as far as what he will do with these nations, if you read Joel 3, you'll see exactly what the fate of these nations that has actually abused us throughout this earth. Okay, but he's going to return and he's going to come and gather us from all these nations. It doesn't say anything about some Jesus coming back to get you. Never said that. Okay, he said if you return, you and your children return to his laws, return back to his laws, that's the stipulation. Once you return, then I'm coming to get you. All right. He didn't say I'm sending somebody to come and get you. He said he's going to do it. So we have to be mindful when we get caught up in following the gods of those who have oppressed us. You have to understand a couple of things. Number one, this book is in print. We don't own printing presses. You got to keep that in mind. Okay. This very man who has oppressed us, he's a known thief. He's a known liar. He's a known murderer, a rapist. You name all of these things. Okay. So look at what he calls himself. Why would you want to call yourself anything? For example, the term Christians, this is what he dubs himself. That's what he calls himself. We can look clearly in the book of remembrance and you don't see Christians anywhere. The people of the Most High are known as Israelites. Period. So we won't even acknowledge that, haven't even gotten over that fact. All right. So if we see an individual, all right, and those that are like him, we see them murder, we see them rape, we see them pillage, we see them steal lands, okay, and steal substances and abuse people throughout the earth. And then we see it done to ourselves. Why would we want to call ourselves anything that person calls themselves? If you're a thief, we know what a thief is. We know what a murderer is. We know what a rapist is. We know what an oppressor is, an enslaver is. This man is all of these things. Can you imagine greeting someone saying, hey, my name is Bob, I'm a rapist. Hello, my name is Bob, I'm a murderer. Or anything of, would you even introduce yourself as that? But the very man who carries this title, he has done all these things to you and everyone else. You have bore witness to this thing. And yet you fight to call yourself and be in his graces. This is the same man that has oppressed you. The Most High said clearly in Deuteronomy 28, okay, through Moses, exactly what would happen to us in these new lands. We would serve strange gods. Now, if we're delivered to our enemies, I want you to think about this. The Most High delivered us to our enemies. All right. And I've discussed before in the previous videos, if we are the people of the Most High, and we clearly are, if we're delivered to our enemies and the Most High delivered us to our enemies, who do you think our enemies are to him? Keep in mind, we are his people. Okay, we are his sons. All right. So just think of this. If we are his sons and delivered us to our enemies, chances are our enemies are also his enemies. That's why he clearly states that we should not envy the oppressor, and we should choose none of his ways. Do not choose the ways of this man, because he's going to kill him. It's really that simple. All right. And if you're following his ways, he's going to kill you too. All right. This is plain, straight up English for you to understand. All right. So there's a reason why all of these things are taking place. All right. We're in a strange land, serving a strange God. Why would you come to a strange land and serve a God of your enemy? Because that is his God. Clearly it is. And you should at least understand that. All right. Because after all, you are the one that's been in bondage to him. So once you read Deuteronomy 28, you clearly know exactly what side of the fence you're on. And you're going to be forced to make a choice sooner than you think. Okay, you have to be able to discern exactly who is serving the Most High and who is not. Okay, so in these strange lands, consider, why would you serve the God of your enemies? Consider that, because that is exactly what you're doing. Okay, it's exactly what you're doing. The Most High tells you exactly what He's going to do. If you return back onto Him and His laws, He's going to come and get you. Now, with that, keep in mind, if this man is raped, pillaged, and done all these things to the nations, and especially to us, we're his number one victim. He has done nothing that has ever been to our benefit. So now, this man has read this book because he printed it, okay? And he stole these scrolls, all right? Because remember, they went into the temple and took all the goodly things of the Most High, all his treasures, etc., etc., have taken the house of the Most High into their possession. They've taken everything, even the house of the Most High, into their possession. So to have all these scrolls, they've read it and tried their best to discern it. So here's what's happened. The Most High has his book, what that he has his signatures on, so you know it's him. That's the book of remembrance. Okay, Genesis through Malachi. Then this man inserted his own book. And then he tells you, well, your book doesn't matter, mine does. But the only thing is you haven't been able to discern that this book is yours and that book is his. All right. But we've seen these ploys before. All right. We've seen him steal things before. We've seen him manipulate before. All right. I mean, prime example would be music industry back in the olden days. They'll take the music from the Hebrew Israelites. They'll produce it and make millions and say it was their song. All right. And then when you catch them in the lie, then all of a sudden, they change their tune. So with this book, as this truth comes out, two things is going to happen. Number one, they're going to change their tone, and two, they're going to drop this book. All right. So keep in mind where we are with this, who you are, where you are, and keep in mind that you'll be serving strange gods in these lands. All right. So if you know you're serving strange God in these lands, you have to start thinking, why would you be handed over to your enemies and you align yourself serving a God that your enemies serve? It just doesn't make any sense, especially when you read this and you know that you are of the house of Israel, and the Most High tells you clearly that if you return to his laws, that he is going to save you. No one else is coming to save you but him. It's clearly written here. Hopefully you can get a grasp of that. Let's move forward. Let's move over to Deuteronomy 30, verse 7. And these are some of the things that they don't want you to read. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies. Well, we already know clearly who our enemies are. They're the ones that put us in chains, that oppress us to this very day. Okay? So the Most High said he's going to put these curses upon them. Don't you think they've read this? They clearly have. All right, so it says here once again, Deuteronomy 30, verse 7, and the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. Well, we know clearly they hate you. They hate us. Okay, this is clear. And if you haven't figured that out by now, you're living in a totally different world. Okay, so all of these curses that's upon us will be placed upon our enemies and those that hate us. All right. And as you know, we are a rebuke among the nations. We're hated people. All right. People hate us, don't know us, which is most amazing. Okay. Now, let's jump down to verse 11. For this commandment, which I command thee this day, it is not hidden from thee, neither is it far off. So, the Most High doesn't have any. You hear some things where people say, Most High moves in mysterious ways. God moves in mysterious ways. I hear that and I shake my head. Like I've said in previous videos, the Most High is up front. He gives you the end and the beginning. There's nothing mysterious here. All right. So he's saying clearly in verse 11, for this commandment which I command thee this day is not hidden. It's not hidden from thee, neither is it far off. Okay. It is not in heaven that thou shouldest say, who shall go up for us to heaven and bring it unto us that we may hear it and do it? Neither is it beyond the sea that thou shouldest say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it unto us that we may hear it and do it? But the word is very nigh unto thee, in thy mouth and in thy heart, that thou mayest do it. Okay? See, I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil, i.e., this law. I have set before you this law. Follow this law, be prosperous, and this is the choice of life. Do not follow this law, sin and death. It's really simple. Okay? So it's not to where you, like the Most High said here, you don't have to go look for this thing. It's right in front of you. You got it. Okay? But you have to be able to discern who is feeding you lies. And I have discussed before, okay, in protocols of the Most High, you're going to have to understand exactly who you are and who the Most High is. That way you can identify him. All right? So once again, Deuteronomy 30 tells you the out. Our out is return unto the Most High, us and our children, and keep his laws. Keeping in mind that we have been delivered to our enemies. And how foolish is it that we are serving the same God as our enemies? That makes no sense in trying to get in this man's churches. How could that be? Okay? Especially when our enemies are the enemies of the Most High. We know good and well we're not supposed to serve anything he's serving. This makes sense. Worse yet, we're not supposed to be calling ourselves by any name he's using. Because why would we want to be called anything this man is called when we know his track record? Or should I say this, when we are victims of his track record? All right. So we've got to get to the point to where we start thinking. All right. We've been caught up in this we're all together soup. It's not so. Most High never said every man is created equal. These are ways of men. What man? This man has oppressed you. Okay, so we're all the same, and you can't find that here. The Most High said his people are special people, chosen above all the people on the face of the earth. Okay, so therefore, Israelites are not like everyone else. All right. As a matter of fact, let me try to find that. I want to say that's in Deuteronomy someplace. Let me find that. Give me 1 second. But you have to keep in mind that above all the people of the earth, all right, Israelites are above everyone, have been chosen as a special people. So don't think for 1 second that we're all the same. They may tell you that. However, the Most High doesn't say that. And so this is important. See if we can find it.